What if I told you that the richest person you know might be completely invisible? Not hiding in some offshore tax haven, but standing right next to you at the grocery store, wearing a faded t-shirt and driving a car with 150,000 miles on it. Think about Warren Buffett for a second. The man has a net worth that could buy a small country, yet he still lives in the same house he bought in Omaha back in 1958 for $31,000. No mansion, no fleet of cars, just a regular neighborhood where his neighbors probably have no idea they're living next to one of the wealthiest humans on Earth. And here's the crazy part. That's exactly why his wealth keeps growing, while most people who look rich are actually drowning in debt. Hi, I'm Matt. On this channel, I break down the money strategies that actually work, the ones that build real wealth instead of just the appearance of it. If you're tired of living paycheck to paycheck while looking successful, stick around because what I'm about to share will completely flip your understanding of what it means to be wealthy. And hey, if you find value in this, subscribe so you don't miss the financial freedom strategies I share every week. Here's the paradox nobody wants to admit. Looking rich is the fastest way to stay poor, and looking poor might be the smartest wealth-building strategy you've never considered. We live in a world where your Instagram feed determines your worth more than your bank account, where people finance luxury cars they can't afford to impress neighbors who don't care, where the appearance of wealth has become more valuable than actual money in the bank. But the people who quietly build real financial freedom, they're playing a completely different game. They're what I call stealth wealth practitioners, not because they're cheap or miserable, but because they understand something fundamental about human psychology and money that most people miss entirely. They know that every dollar spent on looking wealthy is a dollar that can't work for you. Think of it like this. There are two types of wealthy people in this world. The financial peacocks who need everyone to see their feathers, their designer clothes, their luxury vehicles. And then there are the stealth owls, silent, watching, accumulating wealth in the shadows while everyone else is distracted by the peacocks. Guess which one actually stays wealthy?
Over the next 20 minutes, I'm going to show you exactly why looking poor, even if you're not, is one of the most powerful saving strategies you can deploy. Let's start with something that happened over 250 years ago that's still destroying people's finances today. In the 1700s, a French philosopher named Denis Diderot received a beautiful scarlet robe as a gift. It was luxurious and elegant, and he loved it. But then something strange happened. Suddenly, his writing desk looked shabby next to the robe, so he replaced it. Then his chairs looked worn compared to the new desk, so he upgraded those too. Then his rug, his curtains, his entire study. Within months, this one free gift had dragged him into debt, replacing things that were working perfectly fine. Economists now call this the Diderot Effect, and it's absolutely demolishing modern wealth building. But here's what makes it terrifying in 2025. It's not just one robe anymore. You buy a new flagship smartphone for $1,200, suddenly your 2-year-old laptop looks ancient. Your wireless earbuds seem outdated. Before you know it, that one phone purchase triggered $3,000 in additional spending on things you didn't need a week ago. The second you upgrade your car, your garage looks depressing. Your neighbor's house makes yours look small. This is what financial experts call lifestyle creep, and it's the silent killer of wealth accumulation. Studies show that for every $10,000 increase in annual income, the average person increases their spending by $9,000. They keep the raise for about 3 months before lifestyle inflation eats it alive. Here's a real example. Let's say you buy a luxury SUV. Premium fuel costs you an extra $1,500 a year. Insurance jumps from $1,200 to $4,000 annually. Tires? Try $800 per set. A routine service that costs $80 for a regular car now starts at $350. That free feeling you thought you'd get, it got replaced with anxiety and expenses that chain you to a job you might hate. Or picture this. You decide to renovate your kitchen. Just new countertops, you tell yourself. But once those granite counters are in, your 20-year-old appliances look pathetic. So you replace the refrigerator, the stove, the dishwasher. Now your cabinets look dated. $20,000 later, you've got a beautiful kitchen and a home equity line of credit that'll take 15 years to pay off. The original countertop project? $2,000. The cascade it triggered? 10 times that amount. And the worst part? In 3 months, you'll walk past that kitchen without even noticing it because your brain already adapted. Pause for a second and think about your own life. What's your scarlet robe? What's that one upgrade that triggered a cascade of spending? For some people, it's a bigger house that forced them to buy more furniture, higher utilities, increased property taxes. For others, it's a wardrobe upgrade that suddenly made everything else look cheap. Maybe it's the gym membership that led to workout clothes, then supplements, then a Peloton bike, then a home gym setup. Or the streaming service that became 5 streaming services, a sound system, a bigger TV, a media room. These cascades are invisible until you track back and realize one decision 6 months ago just cost you $12,000. The psychology here is brutally simple. Scientists call it the hedonic treadmill. You buy something nice, your brain releases dopamine, and you feel amazing for about 72 hours, and then your new baseline resets. That luxury item becomes normal. The joy evaporates, and now you need the next upgrade to feel that spark again. It's not that different from addiction, except society celebrates this one and calls it success. And social media has turned this into a competitive sport. You scroll through Instagram and see someone's vacation, their car, their watch. Your brain doesn't process that as entertainment, it processes it as evidence that you're falling behind. Influencers make 6 figures selling you the illusion that happiness comes from buying what they're promoting. The dopamine hit from purchasing lasts hours. The debt and regret last years. But the algorithm keeps serving you more because engagement equals profit, and nothing drives engagement like making people feel inadequate. Meanwhile, the person who resists this cycle, the one who keeps the paid-off car, the functional phone, the modest house, they're experiencing something most people have forgotten exists: mental freedom. No anxiety about payments, no stress about maintaining appearances, no Sunday night dread because they need their job to fund a lifestyle they don't even enjoy anymore. Just calm, growing wealth, and the power to make choices based on what they actually want.
Now let's talk about what happens when you take all that money you're not spending on looking wealthy and actually put it to work. Because this is where looking poor transforms from a defensive strategy into an offensive wealth-building machine. Imagine you make the decision to look poor in just a few key areas. You keep your paid-off car instead of upgrading. That saves you $600 monthly. You skip the flagship phone. That's another $100 a month. You cook at home 4 nights a week. There's another $300. You wear clothes until they wear out. Another $100 saved monthly. Add it up and you've found $1,100 per month without making more money and without sacrificing anything that actually matters to your happiness. What percentage of your income are you saving right now? Because if you're like most Americans, it's somewhere between 0 and 5%. The median household is saving almost nothing while spending everything to maintain appearances. But if you can save that $1,100 monthly, you're suddenly saving money at a rate most people think is impossible. Let's do the math. Take that $1,100 per month and invest it in a low-cost index fund. Historically, the stock market has returned about 10% annually. Even if we assume 7% average annual returns after inflation, here's what happens. After 1 year, you have $13,000. After 5 years, nearly $80,000. After 10 years, over $180,000. After 15 years, you're sitting on $300,000. At 20 years, over $550,000. And if you stay the course for 30 years, that modest decision to look poor has generated over $1.3 million in wealth. Compare that to the alternative. The person who needs to look rich spends that same $1,100 on car payments, phone upgrades, dining out. What do they have after 30 years? A closet full of outdated fashion, some Instagram photos, and the same financial stress they started with. Here's a real example. Back in the 1990s, a schoolteacher and janitor couple in Vermont lived in a small house and drove old cars. They looked poor by every measure. When they passed away recently, their estate was worth $8 million. From teaching and janitorial salaries. They didn't inherit money, they didn't win the lottery, they just consistently invested in index funds and never felt the need to prove their worth through consumption. Ronald Reed was another invisible millionaire. He worked as a gas station attendant and janitor his entire life in rural Vermont, drove the same old truck for years, wore a safety pin to hold his coat together. When he died in 2014, he left an $8 million fortune. His secret? He bought dividend-paying stocks and never sold, never bragged, never upgraded his lifestyle, just patient, boring investing while looking poor. This is the compound wealth machine that looking poor unlocks. It's not about deprivation. It's about redirecting money from things that depreciate into things that appreciate. From consumption that brings 72 hours of joy into investments that create lifelong financial freedom.
Think about how this changes the game psychologically. When you're not spending money to maintain an image, you can take risks that build more wealth. You can start a business without maintaining expensive overhead. You can negotiate harder for a raise because you're not desperate. You can switch careers if something isn't working because your expenses are low enough to handle a temporary income dip. You can walk away from a toxic job without panic because 6 months of expenses sits in your account. You can relocate for a better opportunity without the anchor of expensive lifestyle commitments. You can invest aggressively during market downturns while everyone else is panicking. Looking poor isn't just about saving money. It's about buying freedom, optionality, and time. It's about reaching a point where you make decisions based on what enriches your life instead of what maintains your image. And compound interest? It's the mathematical proof that patience beats flash every single time.
Now we're at the halfway point of this video, and if you've made it this far, you're already in the top 25% of viewers who actually care about building real wealth. So let me reward your attention with something valuable. The hidden social advantage that looking poor gives you. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The way you present yourself determines who enters your life. And for most people trying to build wealth, they're attracting exactly the wrong crowd while repelling the right one. When you flash money, wear expensive brands, and broadcast wealth, you become a magnet for a very specific type of person. The kind who measures relationships by what you can provide. The kind who expects you to always pick up the check. The kind who borrows but never repays. These people are financial parasites, and they will drain your resources faster than any market crash. Studies show that lottery winners lose an average of half their winnings within 5 years. Why? Because the moment their wealth became public, every person they knew suddenly had an emergency or a business opportunity. Family members showed up expecting support. Friends became resentful when they didn't get handouts. The visibility of their money destroyed their peace, their relationships, and their wealth. Now, contrast that with looking poor even when you're building real money. You filter out the takers automatically. The people who stick around value you for who you are, not what you can do for them. Your friendships are based on genuine connection. Nobody's asking you for loans. Nobody's resentful of your success because they don't see it. Would you rather impress strangers today or retire 10 years early? The people who matter won't care what you drive, and the people who care what you drive don't matter. There's another layer, privacy as wealth protection. We live in an era where everyone broadcasts everything. According to FBI data, social media posts about expensive purchases are now the primary research tool for burglars and scammers. They're literally shopping for targets on Instagram. That Rolex you posted, it tells criminals you have more at home. That vacation photo, it tells them when you're not there. Looking poor keeps you off these radars entirely. Looking poor also gives you negotiation power in every financial interaction. You walk into a car dealership in designer clothes and an expensive watch, the salesperson immediately prices you as someone who can afford to overpay. They start high and barely budge, but arrive looking modest. Now they see someone who will walk away unless the price is right. Who gets the better deal? This same dynamic plays out everywhere. Contractors give better quotes to people who look price sensitive. Realtors work harder for budget-conscious clients. Salary negotiations work better when your lifestyle doesn't scream desperation. Even flea market haggling becomes easier. There's a reason stealth wealth has become the preferred strategy among actually wealthy people. They learned that visibility costs money in every transaction, every relationship, and every opportunity. Looking poor isn't about hiding success out of shame. It's about protecting your wealth from a world that wants to extract it the moment they know it exists. Can you name one person who got rich by looking rich? The people who broadcast wealth on social media are usually selling something. Their income comes from looking wealthy, not from being wealthy. Meanwhile, the people who actually have money, they're invisible, boring, and completely unbothered by what strangers think.
Let's talk about the hidden advantage that might be most powerful. Looking poor gives you freedom to fail, to experiment, to build something meaningful without maintaining appearances. Think about someone who's built their identity around looking successful. They can't take a risk on starting a business because if it fails, everyone will know. They can't step back to a lower-paying job that might lead somewhere better. They can't experiment with a creative venture. They're trapped in golden handcuffs, performing success while privately struggling with debt and stress. Now, think about the person who looks poor and doesn't care what anyone thinks. They can try anything. Launch a business from their garage. Take a career risk that might pay off huge in 5 years. Move to a lower cost area without embarrassment. Fail publicly and start over because nobody was watching anyway. This freedom to experiment is rocket fuel for building wealth because every successful person failed repeatedly before they succeeded. There's a movement that understands this perfectly. FIRE, which stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early. These are regular people who decided they'd rather retire in their 30s or 40s than work until they're 70. And almost every single one embraces looking poor as a core strategy. The math is simple. The less you need to spend each year, the less you need to save before you can retire. Financial advisors use the 4% rule, which says you can safely withdraw 4% of your portfolio annually. If you need $50,000 per year, you need $1.25 million saved. But if you can live on $30,000, you only need $750,000. That's nearly $500,000 less, which translates to years or decades less you need to work. Recent studies tracking FIRE practitioners show that those who retired early share one trait: extremely low expenses relative to income. They're not making $300,000 a year. Most are making average salaries between $60,000 and $90,000. But they're saving 50 to 70% of their income because they rejected the lifestyle arms race. They look poor compared to peers, but they're retiring 20 years earlier with complete financial freedom, while those peers are trapped in jobs they hate. This brings us to something critical: the difference between looking poor and being poor. Being poor means lacking options, lacking security. Looking poor while building wealth means you have massive options, you just choose not to broadcast them. You could buy the luxury car, you just recognize it would delay your freedom by 5 years. You could live in the bigger house, you just prefer the mobility that comes from low housing costs. Let me ask you directly, 5 years from now, what matters more? A closet full of trends that are already outdated, or a financial position strong enough to catch any dream you decide to chase? Because that's the real choice. Every dollar is a vote for the life you want. Spend it on appearances, and you're voting for performance, stress, and dependence. Invest it, and you're voting for freedom and options. Here's what I want you to understand. Looking poor isn't about sacrifice. It's about clarity. It's about seeing through the illusion that consumption equals success. The wealthiest people I know, personally, people with 8-figure net worths, drive boring cars, live in normal houses, wear clothes from regular stores. They're not cheap or miserable. They're free. Free from debt. Free from the opinions of others. Free from jobs that crush their souls. And here's the beautiful part. When you do finally decide to spend on something special, you can do it with cash. No financing, no debt, no guilt. Just a calm purchase that you made because you wanted it, not because you needed others to see it. And you won't feel any urge to post it online because the purchase was for you. The receipt from that luxury purchase will fade within months, but the story of how you built financial freedom by looking poor while everyone else stayed broke trying to look rich, that's a story that lasts forever. That's a story that changes your family tree. So here's what I want you to do right now. Open your banking app and move $100 from checking to savings. Just $100 as a down payment on the life you actually want. Then identify one upcoming expense that's more about appearance than value. Cancel it. Redirect that money into something that compounds. Next, text one friend and suggest a low-cost hangout centered on connection instead of consumption. A walk, a home-cooked meal, a free event. Build relationships that aren't transactional. Finally, spend 10 minutes researching one skill that could increase your earning power. A certification, a technique, something that makes you more valuable. Free resources are everywhere. The quiet path of looking poor while building real wealth won't earn you likes on social media, it won't impress strangers at parties, but it will earn you something infinitely more valuable: the power to design a life you never need to escape from, a life rich in time instead of trinkets, a life measured in freedom instead of possessions. 5 years from now, you'll either thank yourself for the choices you make today, or you'll wish you had. The looking rich crowd will still be performing, still stressed, still broke behind the facade. But you'll be somewhere quiet, somewhere free, somewhere wealthy in every way that actually matters. The choice is yours. What are you going to choose?